Haven't even started the show and he's disappeared. Look, typical bloke. Good evening, everyone. How are we? Oh, we have a wonderful guest coming on the show this evening. Oh, there he is. He's back again.
Sorry, I had to let the dog out. Waffle pigs.
So we have a lovely guest coming on the show. Her name's Leigh. She's going to discuss with us her issues with colostomy and stoma bags and how the NHS is letting her down. She's just giving us a bit of an insight in the green room, and it's quite distressing, really, to see what she's going through. Don't you think, Linda?
It's surprising, shall we say, what she's going through. But I think it'll be a great insight to how she's dealing with it, and maybe share her story may help other people as well going through the same thing.
So we've got a few normal people in the room. We have Katie Forster. We have the wonderful Tracy Potts, who will laugh 10 minutes after the joke's been said. We have probably not paranormal. We have the Mad Wecker. We have Cheryl King. We have myself. And we have JD. So I'm going to bring Leigh on the show just so she can start her story. And
I have a special guest.
You have a special guest. Wow. What on earth is
Thank
that?
you. Thank
That's
you.
isn't that an old 80s cartoon?
It's a clanger.
It's a clanger.
Yes.
That's the way they talk to each other.
It is. I know I talk to it as well. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, so as you can see, this is a mental health podcast. So some great news this week is that the Samaritans in Mind have allowed me to use their logos on our platform now. They are really impressed with the work that we're doing with the podcast, so they have endorsed that we use their logos, which is a big achievement, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to bring Leigh up, and then we will get this show started. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Leigh.
Hello.
Hi, Leigh.
Good evening. Hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, it's certainly been an interesting weekend.
You were saying just before we started the live, you were telling us a little bit about what's been going on. But before we go into it, do you want to... Well, Rob, you can kick this off, actually. I'll let you...
Yeah, so thank you, Leigh, for coming on the show. Obviously, you emailed me after watching one of our shows, and I spoke a little bit on Friday about what I researched online with regards to it. But I wanted to get Leigh on the show so she could explain from her point of view what was going on and the troubles that you face. So with our community, most of the podcasts are based on the mental health and how you deal with things when stuff goes wrong. So what I would like to just give you the floor so you can tell us your story. And then if anyone in the chat have got questions, send their questions to me, and then I'll put it up on screen and we'll try and get you to answer it if you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to start from the beginning of how I got ill?
Yeah, that's fine. You go as far back as you want to, darling.
So back in 2014, I went to the doctors with severe abdominal pains, and they put it down to endometriosis. They gave me a full hysterectomy, and the pain didn't go away. But they told me it was phantom pain.
Right.
Then in 2020, I was working as a security guard outside Lidl's during the COVID lockdown, and I pretty much collapsed to the floor in pain. And I went to the doctors, and I seen a nurse practitioner who told me that I either had diverticulitis. Now, I'd heard of Crohn's disease, but I'd never heard of diverticulitis. So I came home and I used a Google Monster to find out what diverticulitis was. And all the symptoms that I was presenting with didn't match up with Crohn's at all. Crohn's is basically middle-based down the middle of your belly, whereas diverticulitis is on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And all my pain was the left-hand side. And the skin, I couldn't touch your skin. It was like somebody taking 1,000 Bic pens and just stabbing them into my bowel. I then had to go for a sigmoidoscopy, which is the camera.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they diagnosed me there and then with chronic diverticulitis, which is the worst you can get.
Yeah.
And they said that I'd probably only ever have the one flare-up because 90% of the population from the age of 40 will get diverticulitis at some point in their life. But out of that 90%, 89% will never know they've had it. And it's only 1% of the population that will suffer. So they treated me with antibiotics and the symptoms settled down. I thought this was great. Went back to work, sitting in work one night, and I doubled up again. And I ended up in hospital. This was in the October of 2021. I spent 5 days on an intravenous antibiotic. Well, 3 separate antibiotics, sorry. They then sent me home. 2 weeks later, I was back in again. And this went on all the way through to April. And I was begging them to operate, and they wouldn't do it. They refused point blank to operate, didn't need it. They'd get the infection under control and things would go back to normal. And they never did. I am very, very lucky that I had a very understanding boss who took me off being a security guard and made me operations manager of the company. April, I went in around about the 15th of April. And I was bad, really bad. And they kept me in for, I think it was about 8 days on 3 drips because I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, and I was constantly being sick. The 3rd drip then was the intravenous antibiotics, and again, it was 3 different types throughout the day. By this point, I was living on 20 ml of morphine every 2 hours for the pain.
Wow.
And it wasn't helping. It wasn't touching the pain. They sent me home on the 29th of April with a plan. They did eventually agree they were going to operate. I got sent home with a 2-week supply of antibiotics. I was on 15 tablets a day.
15.
15. And I was to go back 2 weeks later for a scan, for a CT scan, to make sure that the infection had cleared up. And then they were going to get me in to operate. Sorry.
No, that's all right, darling. You take your time.
On the 3rd of May, I begged my partner to take me to the hospital because I knew I was dying. They had sent me home with a perforated bowel and a fistula. By this point, I couldn't walk. I was so severely doubled up in agony, it was horrific. I have never felt pain like this, and I have got a very high pain threshold. And they sent me down for a CT scan. Again, by this point, from the October to May, I'd had 15, 16 CT scans. The recommended in a year is 3.
Jesus.
And when the surgeon came in to see me, he'd checked my other CT scans from the April. And he comes storming into the room, and you could tell he was in a really foul mood. And his exact words to me were, "Why the fuck did they send you home?" And I just looked at him. I was like, well, they were going to get me back in to operate. This was their plan. And he says, you would never have made the plan. He says, you wouldn't have made another 48 hours. You've got a perforated bowel.
Jesus.
He said, so we're going to admit you. We are going to operate. He says, but I need to clear up the infection inside you first. And I was on constant antibiotics. As soon as one bag finished, another bag would go up. From the 3rd of May to the 20th of May, before they could operate. And then when they went in and opened me up, they took away 18 inches of my large intestine. They then ended up having to lay my full intestine out on the table. And they found a lump the size, well, about that size, which they cut out, and they operated on me then as if I had cancer, because that's what they thought the lump was. But it actually turned out that the lump was a big ball of poison.
Wow.
And they took away 3 sections of my small intestine as well, because it had died. And I was left with an ileostomy bag. So there are 2 types of colostomy bags. There's the ileostomy, which is on the right-hand side of the body. And then you've got the colostomy, which is on the right-hand side, which is connected to the large intestine.
Mm.
The ileostomy is connected to the ileo at the end of the small intestine. And that's the worst one you can have, because you get nothing from the food or drink that you drink. Nothing. You get no goodness, you get no nutrition, you get no vitamins. Because you can literally, I can sit here now, I could drink a cup of coffee, and within 20 minutes that cup of coffee is sitting in my bag. It doesn't get a chance to go through my system. And what a lot of people don't realise, once everything hits your tummy, it passes into your small bowel. Your small bowel then takes out all the goodness that it needs. So your fluid gets taken out, hydrates your body, gets sent to your kidneys to be excreted. And then your vitamins, your minerals, your irons, everything like that is also absorbed by the small intestine and sent out to the rest of the body. And then what goes into the large intestine is just waste. My bag intercepts that before it gets to go through my small intestine enough for me to process what I need. So I'm always on a constant level of being dehydrated. But if I drink too much, I'm just wasting it because it's just going straight into the bag. But if I don't drink enough, then I get severely dehydrated and end up in hospital on a drip. So after the operation, I spent a little bit of time in ICU. And they get you out of bed pretty much the next day and start getting you to walk around. And that was fine because I had an epidural on my back. I couldn't feel the pain. Then they get you to eat soft foods like mashed potato, ice cream, jelly. And the surgeon come to see me, and he told me what they'd found. And my initial response was, not again. Please, not again. Because I've already had cancer. I don't need it again. Don't let that scare. And he said to me, have you been to the toilet? Have you pooed? I was like, no. On the Saturday, I had teaspoons fulls of mashed potato. And that night, I ended up having to have an NG tube put down my nose because my bowel had gone to sleep. It wasn't working. Nothing was coming into the bag. And I had vomited 1,000 ml of feces, which was sitting in my stomach. I spent 7 days in ICU. And then they took me down to the medical ward. And I spent another 10 days in the medical ward before I could get home. And as great as our NHS is, they didn't know a tremendous amount about stomas. They couldn't tell me how to change a bag. They would come around once or twice a day and they would empty the bag for me because they had to measure my output. And the stoma nurse eventually come around and she showed me the bag, showed me how to change it and what have you. What she didn't tell me was there are so many different variations of stoma bags, and not one bag will work for everybody. So I've got a couple samples here. You've got the 2-piece. So with this one, this is what they call the base plate. So you put that on, and then you put this on.
Yeah.
And it clicks into place. Now, this is a drainable bag. So you can use this for 3 or 4 days, take it off, throw it away, keep the base plate on, and use another bag. But you will eventually have to change your base plate. I got 2 hours out of this before I leaked through it all. The other one then is the cold clasp ones. And these are the ones that I currently use. This one's a concave. So it looks a bit funny at the moment. But you cut your hole out And I've got to go to the biggest hole because for some reason my stoma's getting bigger instead of smaller. You peel that off, and then when you stick it to your side, it folds in, and that actually folds over the top of my hernia. But it doesn't fit the hernia properly, but that is the biggest bad we do for hernias. If my hernia gets any bigger, there isn't going to be anything that I can use that will stop a leak. And when I say, if you can imagine, you've seen what a baby's bottom can go like with a nappy rash. That's what we get with the stomas. But our skin peels off because we have to peel these off. And when they stick quite well. And they do pull the skin off. They cause a lot of dry skin as well. So then we've got, I use a spray to help take mine off, an adhesive remover spray. But you also get adhesive remover wipes that you can't open. And they're useless.
Oh, wow.
Take off whole stoma. That is it. That is the size of the wipe. You don't even get halfway around before you have to use another one. And as I explained to Rob the other day, if you're in America, you only get 30 of these. So if you've got to use 3, you've not got enough to last you the month. So then people are like, how do you keep the smell at bay? You don't. And that's where a lot of your mental health comes into it. Because it happened at work with me one day. I'm quite lucky. My bags, I've got a filter on them, so they let the air out, but they keep the smell in. But I had a defective batch. They weren't sticking. The filters weren't working. And the job I was on was down in Newport. And I could smell my bag. So I knew if I could smell it, other people could smell it. And I went to the gatehouse and I said to the guard on, I'm just going to nip to the toilet. And he said, yeah, you do fucking stink, don't you? And I get that a lot. And people see the bag and like, oh, there's somebody that's just herself on a regular basis. And the lack of understanding for stomas is frightening.
When you say a lack of understanding, do you think a part of it is also a lack of education as well with people?
Very much.
We say this a lot about all sorts of mental health.
It's a very, very taboo subject, which surprised me.
But that's shocking because it's a condition that's out of your control. You have no way of controlling that. So, people should be understanding you can't control the cards that you've been dealt with. You've just got to go with the best way forward, and it's that I think that's what makes it harder for people like yourself or with anyone with any kind of condition. It's the lack of education and the lack of understanding that people have for people like yourself and anyone else suffering with those sort of health conditions. And how have you managed that going forward?
The best bit of advice I ever got was off a lady in Tennessee, I believe she was from. And she messaged me because I'd gone on to the the support group that I found on Facebook, and I said, look, can anybody help me? My bags aren't sticking. I'm constantly leaking. I go to bed and I'm awake 2 hours later because I'm covered in feces. My bed is covered in feces. I sleep on puppy training pads. I've got waterproof mattress protectors on the bed. And, you know, it's horrible. It really is a horrible situation to be in. And she private messaged me and she says, the best way for you to deal with this is to name it.
Name it.
Name it.
Okay.
She says, give it a name and it becomes part of you. So I called it Boris.
You called it Boris?
Yeah. After our then Prime Minister, because it's
I was
always
going to ask, was it
shit.
after Boris? But I didn't want to say it just in case I got it wrong. I was going to say, did you call it Boris because of Boris Johnson? But
Yes, and because it's always full of shit, just like him.
You have a sense of humour.
And
yeah,
after doing that, I did start to accept it. And I do realise it saved my life. And I went to see about having a reversal done, but it's not an option for me because I've still got the diverticulitis. And before I had the stoma, I was incontinent with the diverticulitis as well. And I never knew when it was going to happen. So I could literally be sitting in the car and all of a sudden it's like, we need to go home. I've just shit myself. And that, again, it's not a pleasant experience. But the amount of people that don't understand what a stoma means to an ostomy patient
yeah.
is... I've had people come up to me because in order for me to be able to wear anything on my lower half, I've got to cut a hole in my clothing so that I can feed the bag through because of the size of the hernia.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's that? And when I say to them, oh, it's a stoma bag, they're like, a what? So you've got to explain to them then that your bum is on your tummy and not your back passage. And they're like, oh, well, oh, God, that's disgusting. You shouldn't be in this restaurant, you know. And it's like, oh, it's not going to affect you. The only person that's going to affect in here is me. Because I'm constantly paranoid that I'm going to be sitting eating my dinner in a restaurant and it goes. It happened to me. Oh, it was either last month or just before Christmas. A friend of mine had booked us tickets in Carmarthen to go and see Swan Lake, the Bally. Not 5 minutes had we sat down and the show had started, then my bag literally popped clean off.
Wow.
And it went everywhere. And again, you heard people like that shouldn't be out in public.
Wow.
And can I just ask before you go, like with those sort of situations, you know, it must be hard for you, But for your partner as well, how does your partner react? Because that's got to be hard for, like, if that was, if I can imagine me being out with my wife, if someone said that to her, I'm sure someone would be launched over to the front of the theatre. How's it for your
A lot of
partner?
the time, I don't tell him
Really?
because I know if I did, he'd lose it. He's very hot-tempered,
Yeah.
and I don't need him going to prison for beating somebody up. I need him here because I can't do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do. I can't even push a hoover around because of the hernia. I'm not allowed to.
So would you say that this has taught you to be very resilient to others? Like,
I've become a hermit pretty much. I only go out if I have to. And I'm quite lucky I don't get a lot of visitors because I live out in the middle of nowhere. My nearest neighbour's half a mile away. The nearest town is 2 miles away. I've got no street lights. It's a narrow country lane and people don't like driving on it because people drive on it like idiots. So I get to sit in the corner of my couch and I watch YouTube, I watch you guys, I watch Beardo, Purple and all that all day long. And I only go out if I have to go to a doctor's appointment or go to the hospital like I did today. And once in a blue moon, I'll maybe brave it with my best friend who's my sister from another mister. And we'll go to the theatre for a night, but I can't relax and enjoy it because I'm constantly paranoid that my bag's going to leak or it's going to come off or, even if you've got like wind, you're restricted with certain foods, certain drinks. And if your bag fills with air too much, it just goes bang. Or it peels the wafer away from your skin. So you carry a bag of supplies, you carry a bag of clean clothing with you, and you look like you're going on holiday all the time. And, carrying 2 separate bags, it's a nightmare. Because you've got to, with the clean clothes, you've got to have clean underwear, clean trousers, clean tops, carry a towel with you because you've got to wash the area before you can put a clean bag on. And then you've got to have your adhesive remover, you've got to have your medicated powder, you've got to have your bags, you've got to have your rings, you've got to have your flanges. There's so much you've got to carry with you at all times. And you can't just say, I'll take one bag, because that one bag might not stick. And I had 1 month's supply delivered one time. And I'd gone up to Scotland to visit family. And we decided to go further north and go and stay with a friend. And out of 30 bags, not one stuck. And for a whole week, I was walking around with doggy poo bags taped to my stomach.
Disgusting. How can they leave you like that?
And like I said, the support, the stoma nurses are great at giving you advice for broken skin. And they're great at handing you a load of samples and saying, try these. One of them might work. But if they don't, then try this paste. try this tack adhesive, try this and try this and try this. But if that doesn't work, then there's not a lot we can do for you. And that is it. In the year and, well, it's nearly 2 years now since I've had my stoma. I've seen my stoma nurse 3 times.
So you've really been let down by the NHS.
Yeah. Everything I've learned myself.
So for anyone in our audience, where would you find information about this? Like, where did you find your stuff?
The best place I found was a support group on Facebook. And bear with me and I'll tell you the name of them. And as always, when you need something that doesn't work.
Yeah, it disappears. You can always send me the link, Leigh, and I can put it on the channel.
It's called Colostomy and Stoma Support. And you've got all walks of life in there, from Americans right up to from Africans right up to the UK. You've got babies, toddlers, grandparents. You know, you've got everybody in there, and everybody has the same issues: leaking bags, not enough supplies, not enough support. You know, I got up one morning and I had blood in my stoma bag. And I thought, what's happened? And I tried to get a hold of the stoma nurse, but they only work 2 days a week for anybody that's not in the hospital. So that's a Monday and a Wednesday. The rest of the time, we're left to our own defences. And I put a message in and said, is it normal? And somebody said to me, if you've eaten something that's on the restricted list, there's a good chance it's caused a blockage, and that's what it is. And I had actually eaten some fruit and I hadn't peeled it. And it was the skin that had caused the blockage. So we're not allowed to eat any fruit with skin on. We're not allowed to eat grapes. We're not allowed to eat raisins, sultanas, popcorn, peanuts. They don't recommend like cauliflower, broccoli, onions, anything like that, because they can all cause blockages. So your diet goes from being very varied to bland. Very bland.
On that subject with the food that you were saying, and you were also saying earlier on that you're not getting any of the nutrients from the food, you know, do you take supplement tablets then to help give you
They haven't tested me yet to see how low I am on anything. They wait till you collapse and go into hospital before they do that.
Shocking. That's the only thing I can say.
But again, I was diagnosed with hiatus hernia today, and I've been struggling with terrible acid reflux, and they keep giving me omeprazole. They're no good because I swallow them. 10 minutes later, the pill is in my bag. It's not even dissolved. And I've tried to explain to my GP that pills in plastic or that are long-term release, I can't take. They've got to dissolve instantly the second they hit my stomach. And they won't listen to me. So the gastro antacids that I get don't help me. So I suffer all day, every day with chronic heartburn or indigestion. And then when I lie down at night, I can actually feel it sitting here because I can't get rid of it.
Oh, it's so bad that you've just been left in limbo because no one knows what to do. In all honesty, nobody, it's not so much that they don't care, it's just they don't know how to do the best thing to help you.
The amount of people that I've heard say that when they've been rushed back to hospital with an emergency because of their stoma, that the lack of knowledge that the nurses have is frightening. They don't know anything about them because they're not taught. And that's here in the UK and abroad. And I was talking to one of the nurses today, and she said to me, do you need to change that before we do this endoscopy? And I says, no, I says, it's fine at the moment, I daren't touch it. And she says, well, I don't really know anything about stomas, she said, so if anything happens, I won't be able to help you do anything.
That's a great start, isn't it? You go into an appointment and the first thing they say, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's
and these are people that you put your lives in their hands. And I don't blame the nurses in the slightest. I know it's not their fault. I know it's not, and I've never ever taken it out on the nurses. But somebody needs to educate people, and not just nurses, but GPs, chemists, because nobody in the chemist knows anything about them.
That's ridiculous.
I'd literally run out of bags one day, and I went into Boots and I said to him, can I get these supplies here? And she was like, well, what's that? I said, a colostomy bag. And she says, what's a colostomy bag? I said, you know, somebody that's had their bowel brought to the outside of their belly. Oh, no, we don't do things like that, she says. But she didn't have a clue what I was talking about.
Why do you think people that they don't have an understanding, like you're saying with the nurses, with the pharmacies, that they should know these sort of things, especially if you need repeat prescriptions, you need constant, you got to take care of yourself. Why do you think it's such a subject that they're not? Is it not a common thing to happen, or what? Have you looked into it to see why?
It's more common than what people know. And there are probably a lot more ostomates out there than there are people without them. But because it's such a taboo subject, people don't want to know about it.
Yeah, but even if it's like a taboo, they say it's a taboo subject. It's still health, isn't it? It's still something that's. So I see where you're coming from, but if you're going into the medical profession, surely they would do like a one day session of dealing. You know, when you start a new profession, you have to go and do all your training.
Yeah,
I would have thought they'd do like a day training on stomas and this kind of thing. So
I think a lot of it's to do with what sort of nursing area you're going into.
yeah, but surely even people doing the home care, even if they have like the basic principle of what to do, like changing it, or they have some knowledge at least, rather than
Well,
I don't know what to do or what's that. It's just absolutely crazy, especially dealing with.
funnily enough, you saying that about home care. I've got a friend who's now in the security business, but she used to be a home care, and she had a patient that had a stoma bag,
Right.
and she had to go out and research it herself in order to be able to take care of this gentleman. He didn't have a clue how to look after it because, again, he'd been rushed in, had the surgery, sent home, and told, there you go, you're still alive, get on with your life now.
Get on with it.
The company that I get my supplies from, you can phone them up and say to them, look, this bag's not working for me. Can you give me a suggestion? And they're great. We've got this bag, we've got that bag.
Right.
But because they're not seeing you face to face and they're not seeing the issues that you're having,
Yeah.
some of the bags are no good. Like the two-piece for me, it just doesn't fit the shape of my stoma and the hernia. And they sent me out 3 boxes of those. And when I tried to give them to the hospital, because I'd opened the one box, I'd taken the one out and used it. But because I'd actually opened the prescription box that it come in, they were second hand and they binned them.
Wow.
So there is another support group out there called Save Our Supplies. And it's called SOS for short. And people that have had successful reversals, I'll put up, right, guys, I've got 10 bags of serial number 505. Does anybody want them? Somebody will say, yeah, I'll have them. And what they do is they pay the postage and they send them
Okay.
the supplies.
That's good. Yeah.
And I done that with the ones that I had. And mine ended up going over to America because a lady was literally on her last bag. She'd phoned her supplier and said, look, I've had really bad diarrhea the last few weeks. I've gone through 5 bags a day. I've got 1 bag left. Can I have a new supply out? And they said, no, you're allowed 30 bags a month.
Which
30
some
bags.
people would last them probably like 2 weeks, if that.
And I've seen me go through 5, 6 bags a day. And if you're doing that, there's no way you're going to have enough supplies for the month. In the UK, we're lucky. We just phone the company and say, look, I'm running low. Can you send me another supply? They phone your doctor. The doctor sends them a prescription and they send the package via DPD. We don't have to worry about it. But in America, 30 bags, and for those 30 bags, you're paying anywhere from £800 to £2,000 because your insurance company will only pay a certain amount because they're not considered life-saving. They're not a necessity in America.
That's shocking as well. That's really bad. You know, you're living with this every day, and I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this before, but how do you find your happy space? Because it must be like, as your experience is heartfelt, and it sounds awful what you've gone through, but have you found something that's helped you sort of deal with this easier in a way, or the way you keep yourself mentally focused to carry on with what you're doing?
I'm very good at compartmentalizing things. So I use my head like a warehouse, and I've got areas where everything goes, and all the bad shit goes to the back, and I just try to forget about it. With this, on my good days, then I'll sort of I'll pick up knitting needles, or I'll pick up a crochet hook, or I do a lot of 3D puzzles, which takes my mind off. But if I'm having bad days where my skin's broken, it's weeping, the bags are not sticking, it's absolute agony to have the bags on when your skin is broken. All I can do is lie there and cry, because the pain from it is awful. And I said to a friend, again, who's a security guard, they've got a 1-year-old, and I said to him, do you know, I've never empathised or sympathised with a baby so much in all my life as I do now since I've had the stoma with the broken skin. And I can understand why a baby screams constantly when it's got an nappy rash, because it is horrendous. And until you've experienced it, it's, again, that you can sympathise with somebody, but until you've experienced it yourself, you'll never understand what it's like. And trying to explain it to people sometimes is so hard, because they just can't get
grasp it.
it.
Yeah.
They can't wrap their heads around what you're trying to tell them. And they either ask you to stop talking about it, or they walk away.
That's not rude, is it?
I've been lucky my partner stood by me. A lot of partners leave you for it.
I've read stories about that, people whose partners, when someone is terminally like ill, or when they've got stomas and that, just walk out the door because they don't want
Really?
to handle it. Yeah, I read that on the stoma site.
Okay.
But to be fair, that shows, in my opinion, this is my opinion only, so I'll be, I don't want to upset anyone, but those sort of people shows how weak they are.
Yes.
At the end of the day, and I refer to what I said to you, it's not your fault you're in that position. It's not anyone's fault.
No.
And you would expect the people that have a big impact in your life, they should be the first ones to support that change, and the hardness that you're going through, which you've been quite lucky by the time with your partner, the support.
I have been very lucky with him. He was repulsed to start with, and he admitted that openly to me, which I respected him for.
It's got to be a shock to the system
mainly because he didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest thing, and what actually broke the barrier with us on that, was he actually rolled over in bed one night and laid his hand on the bag without realising what he'd done while he was asleep. And Boris decided he was going to become active and farted quite loudly.
What
And
a
of
name.
course, the bag went, and my partner's hand literally went, "Ooh!" And I just doubled up. And when he got up the next morning, I told him about it. And he's like, "I did not." I was like, "You did." I said, "You were sound asleep. You were snoring your head off. But as soon as the bag made that vibrating feel, his hand just shot away. And he was shaking it like he had shit all over it." But that was a turning point for us. He then started to help me. He'll cut the bags and he'll warm the adhesive up on the bag for me, because if you don't warm them up, they don't stick very well. And I learned that the hard way. A hairdryer is brilliant, up under the armpit, under the boob, wherever, to get the adhesive warm. And at one point, I was struggling. I couldn't see underneath the stoma because I've got what they call a double loop ileostomy. So I've got the main stoma where the poo comes from, but directly underneath that, I've got another one where all the mucus comes out. And I couldn't see under this to get the bags on. So I was getting mucus all over the bags.
Yeah.
And so he started helping. And he was putting the bags on for me. And I think that's when he realised it's not as bad as what a lot of people think.
Yeah, once you get this, I think, once you get hands-on and you get involved, then the scare factor starts to die down. But it's like a lot of things. It's a lot of things medical. It's all icky and yucky. It's human nature to have this. I'm not touching that. But once you go in there,
you'd be surprised how many ostomates are like that.
See, I think what's it? My auntie was in hospital. I'll never forget this, and I don't know if it was something similar, but she wasn't able to empty her bowels or go to the toilet and the normal. So she had a bag that was sitting on the outside, and it was draining all the waste basically. And I'll never forget. I didn't realise she had it put in, and I walked into the hospital to go and see her, and it was in August, so it was one of those hot days. And she happened to be on the top floor. The elevator was broken. So and I'm quite a big guy. Me charging up these stairs took like nearly an hour for me. And I get in there and she says, "Well, you hot?" And I was like, "Yeah, you thirsty?" She stood up and gave me a bag and goes, "Do you want to drink some of this?" Oh my God, I freaked out. And I'll be honest, I was like, the first thing that I said was, "What the fuck is that?" Because I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the funny side of it was her, you know, the way she was just being, she was still laughing. But I think like your partner, it's that initial shock because you don't know what it is. And I think that's what the problem is, you know, but he's learned and, you know, and he's helped you through it. But it's the people that don't want to learn from it. Like, I'll be honest, I was horrified. Like, it was awful. Like, I'll be totally straight. When she showed me, it was like, it was quite scary to see. But then when you start understanding, and that's why I don't understand, if people were able just to sit down, shut up and listen properly, you would understand that it's not disgusting. It's disgusting in the way of what we're seeing, but it's something that can't be helped. It's something to keep you alive. And that's what I don't understand, why people why they can't get out of their heads. And people would disagree with you. I don't think people see me as a human, if we ask Rob anyway. But but do you know what I mean? I just don't understand why people have got to be so harsh with their words and the way they react. It's
because people are also they're not.
There we go. Rob just says that as it is.
Yeah, because do you know what? They're not taught. They're not. They don't respect people. And when something like this pops up, the first thing that comes into their mind is, "Oh, it's gross." You know, I've done nursing. I've been there. I've done home care. I've done working on the wards, and you see the look of even some nurses when they go to like change a bag. They look at it and think, "Oh, I don't want to fucking touch that. What if it goes everywhere?" And it's wrong. It just goes to show that society is actually small-minded, and most people are. Most people don't care. If it doesn't happen to them, they don't give two shits.
But I don't understand how people like in the caring industry, right? So I'm going to go just say that they think that that's disgusting, but that in some situations, aren't you there to help people that go to the toilet that can't wipe themselves and they can't, or they mess themselves in the toilet? You still got to clean it up. Is that not the same thing? But instead, it's coming from a package.
I've worked with so many HCAs that all they want to do is make beds. They don't want to take someone to the shower and help them wash. They don't want to change an Inco pad because they find it disgusting. Because most people that are HCAs in the hospitals and that have been sent there by the job centre because they've been told unless you get a job, your benefits being cut. The best job to get is either security or healthcare because they're always needed. And then when they go into healthcare, it's only ticking a box. I don't care how long I'm here, but I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that, I ain't doing that. And if you don't like it, sack me because then I can claim a benefit again.
And a lot of them will choose agency work as well rather than work directly for one hospital because they can then pick and choose what patients they treat.
Yeah.
But these people then need to realise, no disrespect when I say this, but these people need to realise you're whinging about you got to spend 10 minutes with a person to do something like that. That person's living with it every single bloody day. Think out of the box what that person's going through. Like yourself, your story that you've shared with us. You know, you're whinging about it, but think about that person, how they feel.
But
they're living that every day, and I'm.
Yeah, but
I get aggy about things like this, and then I start.
No, I do as well. And again,
I apologise.
Going back to something that Chris mentioned earlier, the amount of ostomy patients that can't handle having the bag. They can't change a bag. They can't clean themselves. They can't empty it. And the only way they can see of doing anything is to take that fateful step that stops it all.
See, I'm terrible. I like squidgy and horrible things, and I'll be one of these people who would have probably squeezed a colostomy bag to see what it feels like. It's because I've done home care, you see.
I tell you what, see on a cold winter's day, there's no warmer place than sticking your hand under the bottom of your colostomy bag because it's bloody lovely and warm.
Right, that's it. That's it. Forget the mittens. I'm going to find somebody that's got a colostomy bag.
But you do have to develop a thick skin.
Yeah.
And you do have to develop a sense of humour about it, because if you don't, then I can understand why a lot of people take.
We know what to get Chris for Christmas this year now.
Yeah.
We know what to get Chris. We'll get one of your used ones.
If you actually want to experience what a colostomy bag feels like, and I wish I had been told to try this before I got mine, find somebody that's got some, fill it with porridge, warm porridge, and put it on. And walk about with it for a day and see what we put up with.
See, this is the kind of thing people need to do, to understand. But, there's so many people who have the ick factor who can't go there.
Also, people don't care. And until they've been to the doctor and they get that diagnosis or they go to the hospital, people don't care because it's the same thing, isn't it? It won't happen to me.
Exactly. They put the blinkers on, don't they?
It's never going to happen to me. I was the same with the cancer. Oh, it's never going to happen to me. So it's like, I think humanity needs to be taught a lot more. They, you know, and I blame the government. The government are fucking useless. I've said it live on YouTube. I don't care now. What's Rishi going to do? Deport me? Because he can't deport anyone else, let alone me.
I think it's. I didn't know. Sorry for interrupting, but I've learned so much with you, Leigh, on this. I knew what a stoma was. I have seen them, but from behind the scenes, what's going on, I'm quite shocked, and it's very sad. But it's not good.
If people don't mind, I'll show you what I've got now, and I'll show you what my issue is with getting things to fit.
If you feel comfortable, then that would be.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I don't mind, because it's part of.
Don't pull a face like that.
It's who I am.
What I'll
let's
do,
get
I'll put
Boris out.
There we go.
So.
Yeah.
That's my hernia. That's what I carry about every day.
Okay.
And as you can see, the skin is starting to break down around it. It's getting all red and sore. And that's good. That's the best it'll ever look.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that you've been let down by the government. I'm sorry that you've been let down by the NHS. And I'm sorry that there's people out there that treat you like a fucking leper, because you're not. You're a wonderful lady. And for coming on here and talking to strangers that you don't know,
absolutely.
You know, I can only take my hat off to you, because I think you're wonderful.
And like people have said in the comments a few times, your sense of humour to go with it as well still. It just shows that no matter what you're going through, you can still have that sense of humour and, keep going. And I think it's great.
I have fought illnesses all my life. I was born with encephalitis, and I developed viral meningitis on top of it. I should never have survived it. And I did. And I always said I survived it for a reason. And I finally found that reason. And that reason is to open people's eyes about colostomy bags.
Do you know what? I would love to get you back on the show at a later date, and we can discuss if things got any better once the general election's been done and the NHS is meant to get millions more pounds. I just think this is a wake-up call for people. People need to see the suffering that you're going through, because you're not getting the help that you need. And all the comments here now are saying, like, thank you for showing Boris off to everyone.
What a great name, and what a great.
I know. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
That just tickled me from the start when you said it. It was just because he's so full of shit.
But it's true, isn't it?
It is true, yes. And at the end of the day, if I can help just one person understand and help them lead a better life just through my experiences, then I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not going to be one of these people that's going to go and hide away somewhere and pretend it's never happened to me. It has happened to me. The bag saved my life.
Well done.
I wish it hadn't had to have happened, but it didn't. It happened for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. You're still here. You're still fighting. You're still doing good stuff, and you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
And I think
fantastic.
We've touched on a lot of subjects to do with mental health, and this is the first time when Rob brought this up to me. When he said about it, I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about it. I had to go and read, and a lot of the stories were quite negative in the sense of the support system. And it's quite shocking. But I would say this is one of the videos that I would encourage everyone to share out. So this can teach not just, you know, about how the NHS have let you down, but it's the people out there that are not being considerate and not understanding. You know, if we can share this out to as many places as possible and people can get a true understanding what it's like, you know, you're making a comment because of a smell. You're making a comment because of what you got to do for your job. Remember, there's a person actually living with this 24/7. And this is the story that people need to hear to help. And, you know, others that are suffering as well. You know, I think Rob's going to put the links that you mentioned about the social media platforms, the support groups.
Yeah, I will.
Out, you know,
what I'd love to be able to do at some point is have a chat with Rob and see if there's a way of actually starting a support group where we can meet people.
Yep.
Like myself, where we can give the advice they need.
Do you know what? I'll be well up for that. We can.
I'll be in. I'll be up for that.
In the week.
You know, do you know what would be great about this? We're all in different locations.
Yeah.
You know, and this could be something that we can really harness, like, you know, because there's not enough said about it. Like I said, when Rob first brought this up with me, I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot into it, you know. So I had to read, and then I was asking you questions before we come live, because I was like, I don't want to look stupid. Well, I always
you always look stupid.
I know that. I said it before you lot jumped on that one, but do you know what I mean?
See, Nando lives on another planet. He's actually on Mars, so it will take quite some time for him to get back to us. But Leigh, have you actually? I know this is my mother in my head, but spoke to like an MP who you can talk to, where you know? No,
I haven't yet. It's something that I've been thinking about doing with the support group.
It's something she does. It's something she does. If she wants her voice heard or she's not happy about something, she speaks to her GP, the MP. And this is I think this is going to start small, but I think this is something we could actually get a lot bigger and actually shine a light on this and get it sorted, because it's something that's also been kicked underneath the carpet, and it has it's very, very serious.
When I found the support group on Facebook, I was actually looking for a local support group that met up, and there's nothing.
Right.
I have not found anything.
Well, that's something that we can.
It's something that needs to happen.
What I'll do, Leigh, is I'll email you during the week, and I'll send you all my Facebook links, and we'll start our own Facebook page between the four of us, and then we go from there, and we build something, and we're building.
Sounds good to me.
But no, it sounds like good. You know, I just want to thank you for coming on tonight and sharing your story. It was really brave to not only share your story, but actually show people, you know, what is actually going on with Boris. That's great, isn't it? With Boris. Sorry, I had to use it. You know, but honestly, it would be great to follow up with you and, you know, see how things are going, starting up a support group. You know, let's all look into it and see how we can get that going. But I just want to say my thank you for tonight. It's been an absolute eye-opener, and it's been amazing to hear your story, and thank you for sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you ever so much. It's absolutely brilliant.
Like I said, if tonight helps just one person,
I'm sure it will help a lot
then
of people.
It's been worth it.
And let's share this video out. If anyone can share it to other groups, please share it out, because this is a story that I think people need to hear and educate themselves as well. But again, thank you to everyone in the chat tonight and the community. You know,
yes, thank you ever so much for all the lovely comments. I have been reading them.
Yeah, no,
they're a good bunch.
This is what our community is all about, Leigh. So, you know, you're part of that community now. You're one of us.
Sorry about that.
We will get you on the show again. Chris only came on once, and he's got stuck with us. So.
Yeah.
We got stuck with him.
Well, that's
it did actually.
You know, we're always happy to have new members sitting up on the screen and chatting with us, because it's help. We're one big family.
Amazing.
I want to say thank you. I will get in touch with you during the week, and we'll discuss this project a lot, and we'll get it up and running. And we'll raise some funds. We'll do something that's going to start helping people in these situations, because they're not going to get the help anywhere else.
No.
So
Project Boris. That's what we'll call it. Project Boris.
Project.
There we go.
We can dress up as weird things, and
I thought you were going to say dress up as a
Well-
colostomy bag.
Funnily enough, that was going to be my Halloween project
Really?
last year, but I wasn't well enough to do it.
No.
Well,
well, you
there's
got us now, so we can help. We can help with this.
But
You know,
Yeah.
I've got a few ideas for fundraisers.
okay. Well,
Um,
we'll discuss on email during the week, and we're going to really get this ball rolling now, because this needs to be done.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Very, very well needs to be done. On that note, I'm going to end the show, guys, because I need to prepare myself for work. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
And I've done my ankle in, so it's a nightmare. It's going to be.
oh no.
Yeah, if you look over there, if I move that, you'll see my uniform
Yes.
behind.
Yes, we do the taxi marshalling.
Yep.
And we have a vulnerable persons.
That's what I am. I'm one of the night safety marshals, so we deal with vulnerable people and people suffering with mental health. So
Yeah, we've got a tent, and I did do a few shifts down there.
Yeah.
And I had a blowout with Boris while dealing with an angry man. And let's just say I had the whole taxi rank in stitches. Because he was up in my face, he was pushing me, he was grabbing me, and I felt my bag come off, and I felt it slide down my leg.
Oh wow!
And I thought, oh shit. So I bent down, I picked the bag up, and I said to him, right, mate, get out my face. I says, or I'll make you move. I says, and you're not going to like the way I'm going to do it. Well, what's a little pipsqueak like you going to do? I says, well, you have heard my accent, haven't you? He's like, yeah, you're Irish. I was like, really? Fucking really? I says, no, I'm Scottish, mate. I says, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a nut in your face. I said, and as you're coming down, I says, I'm going to shove my bag of shit down your throat.
Brilliant.
And he's like, what bag of shit? And I just literally held it up and stuck it right in his face with the open hole at his nose. So all he got was one almighty whiff.
Brilliant.
I tell you what, he didn't half calm down after that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else was howling, but you know,
No, that's
it's like,
brilliant. That's brilliant.
There she is. Background laughing.
So
what can I say?
I just want to say thank you. We do have another live Wednesday night with historian Neil Story. That is at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. I know it's Valentine's Day, so everyone will be out with their loved ones. So it'll just be me, probably.
I'll be here because I don't go anywhere for Valentine's. I don't like it.
I'll be here.
Today I get Chris on the show.
I know. Just let the whole side down. Let Chris on. Oh God.
I'll try and be there for Wednesday. I promise.
Yeah, you better be.
Try.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't upset the boss downstairs. You've seen what she's like if I've upset her.
Well, this is it. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to say thank you,
Okay,
Leigh.
Leah.
We will.
Thank you, Leah.
During the week, and thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you for your memberships tonight. It's amazing as ever. And yeah, we will see you all on Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you for
guys.
having me on.
Take care.
No worries.
Leigh.
You will be back. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right. I'm going to put us all in the green room. Thank you very much, Leigh.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, darling.